Yeah, it's really powerful, Naveed, and I think that is probably one of the reasons why when I did the training with you, I got really excited because I think as someone who comes from, I guess, a project delivery background and I love analysis solving problems. So I think, I was very much this is the role for me because it kind of it allows you to be the Swiss Army knife, but it also gives you the power to have a shared clarity on that placemat or whatever it looks like. And when you started to kind of demonstrate what in reality those examples look like, to me, I kind of went back in time through all of the projects where you had so many people who made assumptions and had different opinions, and so it creates people divert at the point of the strategy is delivered, and then it turns into a project, and 5 years down the line, and then people are questioning, like, are we still actually on track, and are we still solving the problem we thought we were solving?
Right.
So I think that was the really, as even just someone who was helping the leadership to execute, when the leadership is like, well, I know it's a project to implement a CRM or a new widget, whatever it is, and but not really understanding the layers of the onion like you described, to really go, well, actually we started this off to solve this problem. It's not about the tool, whatever the tool is, it's about the why. So yeah, I love that, Naveed, and very powerful, and how you can do it, and I think you bring so much flair in your design as well, and you make things look beautiful, which is also like it's an added bonus, but also people like to engage with something visual that they can kind of piece together. So that's really awesome. Well, thank you. I think that was a really good example.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's great, Susan. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but that's true, by the way. The visualization is actually a good point, right? Sometimes we think it's not important. It doesn't matter. We are not a graphic designer. I get that comment sometimes, to be honest. Oh, we are not a graphic designer. We are here to solve problems. That's right. But it's also important to have something that people can actually, it has to be appealing to the eyes, by the way. That's a human nature. Let's put aside the architecture side, but we are doing the artwork, in a way we are artists. And when you create that artifact, and, like any other artwork, it has to have something appealing to the eye. So then you start paying attention and listen, right? So I agree, that yes, we are not really graphic designers, but I believe it's important. I myself, I put myself through some learning around the design, how you can actually design in a way that is appealing to the human eye, how it attracts attention. So it's something that business architects might not think about. But I've noticed it makes a difference, that when you put something out, like that one-pager placemat actually had a lot of designs in it without the help of any graphic designer, because you don't want to have that barrier. Now you have another conduit for your work, and sometimes things gets lost in translation. That's why I like, as a business architect, to do the design myself too, because you can actually transfer your thinking into that art,
taking the person on the journey of reading and like what you want to highlight, because it is a bit of like there's a lot of thinking around what am I trying to articulate with this, whatever it is, right? So sometimes you do a blueprint and you're like, well, what I'm trying to convey here is a particular risk or issue or areas to focus on, and so that design element is quite important, right? Because otherwise, if you lose the reader and they don't actually get to the the punchline, then that's kind of the measure of success as well, right?
Yes, exactly. I love it when, back when we used to be in office, that you walk around and you see your work is printed off on people's offices.
And then it's meaningful, right? It's something people look at every day.
That's right. Yeah. So the one aspect is that, oh, it's a pretty picture, but of course it's not about that. it's about the message and the reason that people actually care about looking at that placemat and actually understand what they're, yes, it reminds them of the work they are involved. Like you mentioned, when we go through a project execution, sometimes we lose sight of why even we are here in the first place, right?
Yes.
So that's something like I have done a lot, in fact, the transformation framework, which is it might sound really a grand thing, but it's actually very simple, right? You're actually putting together pieces of the transformation that you're going through. So as you go through that journey, you keep an eye on where we were.
Ticking the boxes. Are we making the progress that we thought we should be making?
Yeah, exactly. And so the one, I can share that with you. So we had a 3-year engagement to track a transformation, and that's, for me, was the longest one that I was involved on a continuous way to actually see what's happening with that transformation. And same techniques, honestly, same techniques we have seen in Bespoke. We talk about the capability assessment, the mapping to value streams, but then on a regular basis we were actually meeting with the SMEs, with the project team, going through the assessment, building another placemat at that point in time, and then reporting back on it. Back to the point you mentioned, the 3 personas, right? So I'm just connecting it down now.
Now we come down to delivery, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's part of our life as well. So we help the leaders to articulate their strategy. And then we get into the role of, okay, now let's translate that. Let's put it into the business architecture lens, right? The typical things we know of: value stream, cross mapping capabilities, stakeholder interactions, whatever it is, right? If it's a policy related scenario, maybe we do policy mapping. But regardless, then reality has starts. Then things just starts happening, then the building, the development, right? So we go back, and then we start looking back and assessing it. And so again, I'm sharing with you, in one of the scenarios, every year we actually went back to the SMEs. We did a full reassessment of all the capabilities, and then reported it back to the transformation steering committee. Right. So that way you are maintaining that alignment. So these are possible. Sometimes they sound like theory, but when you actually get on the ground, you can actually do that, right? And so that helped us. That cycle helped us to keep track of what's happening, but at the same time informing the leadership that this is where we are. We might have missed few marks, and perhaps these are the corrective actions we need to do, and then going through that cycle. And then I recall that at the end of the 3-year execution, when we officially closed the transformation initiative, then we still did the final assessment of everything, and provided even a set of kind of a follow-up actions right at the end of that, right? So that's where also we get engaged, right? That's why we build that traceability and the alignment, not at the point in time, but actually through the whole life of a transformation journey, right? And then through that process, by the way, we also work with a lot of different stakeholders, right? So I work very closely, by the way, with business analysts. Like, you do have a background in business analysis, right? So you can see the connection. It's very close. I would say one of the closest disciplines that we work with, at least in my experience, having worked in business architecture in the last decade or so, the business analysis. We work very closely with them, especially if you get those, strategic business analysts, the one who actually, understand the business, not only through the lens of a solution, or technology, but actually from the big picture. It's very powerful. It's a very, very powerful collaboration with business analysts, and if you're going through those major transformations, so you would need business analysts, because a lot of requirements are being gathered. Process analysis can happen in the process architecture usually is a part of transformation, right? If it's a scenario of case management, you have engagement a lot from the business analysis as well. So that's another area that we have a lot of engagement with. And in my experience, we collaborate very closely with them and mostly supporting them, providing them that frame of reference. That's really what
powerful.
we do. Yeah. So, because they are, that's right. Exactly. It becomes really powerful. Sometimes I see some of the business analysts that, come to us and say, I had these 200 different requirements. I didn't know how to frame them.
Correct.
Right. Yes. Like they do the great work in collecting requirements, yes, but sometimes you need that business architecture perspective to align them, right? Yeah. So we provide them with the a business capabilities, of course, capabilities are very helpful. And yes, then so that helps them to kind of frame their work and their requirement. But then what we are doing at the same time, we are also building their traceability back, yes, because it's all started with that strategy. Yes, with that original problem that we were having that 1 week workshop, yes, with the executives, right? It all connects, yes, back to that. So yes, now we are building that whole end-to-end alignment and traceability by getting involved with other disciplines. And the other discipline, of course, is enterprise architecture. Right. So we have quite a close relationship with them as well. So on the ground, on a day-to-day basis, and that depends, by the way, where your practice is, right? So I have worked in the areas that we were actually part of enterprise architecture, and that's fine. Some people really like to be separate from enterprise architecture, not being tagged with technology. But at the end of the day, it's all about how well we are aligned regardless, right? Yes. So that's also quite important, the alignment with enterprise architecture and other domains of, yes, enterprise architecture. And that's another, main stakeholder of us, as we go through any change, any transformation, any initiative.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you tell the story from the top to the bottom, because I also see it as an end-to-end, or it can be. Like any engagement can have its start and finish, and there's a particular problem I want you to look at. But I think the power is in the longevity of seeing it through from, the creation of the strategy, the vision, interpreting that, and then seeing people go, oh, okay, I totally understand why, how am I contributing to that why? And then that guidance of the how and the direction to all the delivery people, because people are really, I work with lots of delivery specialists, and that is the reason why we do what we do, is to get the value to the business, to our stakeholders, to the community. And knowing that you are on the right track is very powerful. And in that kind of review, or a tranche review, or, as you're going through like a large program over a long time frame, it's also, I think, quite cathartic for delivery people to see on a map, to go, actually, we did miss that, and to acknowledge that where we did have a win, but also where, we didn't have enough resources, or, there was some challenges, and that is actually represented on the map, so that they know that leadership is acknowledging that we didn't, meet the mark here, which means we carry that forward, or do we need to pivot? And I think that is the value in where delivery people are trying to potentially communicate some of these things, and as part of their progress reporting, etc. But the power, I think, is in what the business architect can do in using the framework to then communicate to the leadership in the language that they started from the beginning, to communicate back to them the why, like, why did that matter? Why does this particular milestone, how does that stop us from getting to that vision? And was that a big enough deal? And is that something that we can reshape and pivot? So I think that's where I get excited, because I think that is where the big gap is, where business architects really add the value.